All right, so I haven't really been keeping track of this, like this drama in general, right? But I'm very curious to see, Mr. Legal Mindset has the massive day for the unemployed, unemployed wars. The comment section already. All right, let me see. I'm curious to see what the fuck this is.
The Gotcha Wars. We have a copyright
You mean the
battle.
dumbest gotcha war you've ever seen in your entire life? Yes. This is literally the dumbest gotcha war I've ever seen.
On YouTube between two creators, Mr. Pokey and Saint Tonas. We're going to get into that today, breaking down this copyright battle and what's going on there. Of course, on the Legal Mindset, we teach you to be your own judge. I'm Andrew Esquire,
I can't believe I'm
American
watching
attorney.
stuff for this thing.
This is a
I
fast facts
really
video.
cannot
And
believe
in
I'm
this case,
actually
this is a
watching
case involving
stuff for
two
this.
different creators. Now, introduce you to the first one. The plaintiff in this case is Mr. Pokey, a Singaporean gotcha content creator. So he is the plaintiff in this case because he's the one that actually struck the video. So he's the one that placed these strikes. So I'm going to put him in the plaintiff seat for today in the overall framing. And then the defendant is Saint Tontas. I'm going to call him Saint because I'm lazy, but he is the one whose video was indeed struck. So we've got Mr. Pokey versus Saint in this gotcha war. So
Saint was being petty for just shit talking his ex like that, even though he fell in love with the model. Yeah, we did see that video from the last video, to be honest. I'm gonna be honest with you, that shit was I can't believe I actually watched that video, to be honest. I really cannot.
Mr. Pokey and Saint Tondas are YouTube creators in the gotcha space. And of course, if you're in any space, particularly where you're talking about different games and you have a lot of different opinions, you're going to have disagreements. In fact, passionate disagreements over the new game. And specifically, this boils down to criticism over the new game, Ark Knights Enfield, which
This all started because of Ark Knights Enfield. Straight up, this just started because of a gotcha game. Wholly unemployed, dude. Holy unemployment, dude. I cannot believe this all started because of a gotcha game, dude. They all lose negative aura, okay? They're all literally in the negatives or so. For literally just all of this started because of a goddamn gotcha game, okay? All right? They all lost aura, okay? Let's be honest here. I just came back watching the aura tournament. They all lost the aura, okay?
just came out in January of this year. And of course, there's some pro, there's some anti here. And that's how this played out is, hey, one of them likes the game, one of them doesn't like the game. You know, the other one says, hey, you're a supporter of the game Wuthering Waves, so therefore you're not going to be a supporter
That is
of
not
this
my
new game.
people. These
So
are not my people. Those are not my people.
When it comes to that. And Mr. Pokey used that conflict and a bunch of quote unquote logical fallacies to mock Saint Tontas in his video, The Art of the Gotcha War, to which Saint Tontas responded with his own video, The Tragic Downfall of Mr. Pokey, reviewing that video and rebutting that and kind of going through these things he calls logical fallacies and kind of making fun of him and also breaking those down in more of an analysis. And that video, The Tragic Downfall of Mr. Pokey, was indeed the one that Mr. Pokey ended up striking on YouTube after its release. So over here, we can see the evidence of the copyright strike right here, which says we received a copyright removal request for your video based on applicable copyright law. We removed your video. Your channel received a strike. If you get 3 copyright strikes, your channel, along with associated channels, will be removed, subject to removal. So this is very important to note. Obviously, if you are a person who is covering someone religiously and they are able to get 3 strikes on you, that's a way they can get you and get your channel removed.
I'll be honest with you, that is pretty shitty for Mr. Pokey to do that, to be honest. Unless it's like literally not transformative in his video, then that's fine, you know? But if it actually is transformative in Mr. Saint's video in general, Mr. Pokey is at fault here.
Some people can call that perhaps baiting. I guess if you're locked into a battle with somebody, this is something that can indeed happen. And over here, you see the remedies. Do nothing. Strike expires after 90 days. Request retraction or submit a counter notification. Deleting the video will not remove the strike. So those are your 3 options. So what happened? Mr. Pokey demands Saint give a public apology, delete all videos mentioning him, and never speak about him again. And I'm just going to say,
I'm going to be honest with you, that's pretty childish for Mr. Pokey to say that, to be honest.
for demands, those specific demands, okay, maybe an apology, I understand. But if you're in a space where there's disagreement, where there's fighting, where there's back and forth, where
Yeah.
you're going to get into this, this is better, this is not,
Yeah.
and understand with these gotcha games, they can have indeed very complex systems. And there's a lot of argument about value, about the value of pulls, about what system is best. Is it a complex system with a lot of characters or whatever else? You could argue about the art, you could argue about the models. There's a lot to argue
Kiyasu? I don't know
about
who
in the gotcha
Kiyasu
space,
is.
and that kind of makes it ripe for conflict. So I think saying, hey, look, you're never going to make a video about somebody else in the space, kind of an unreasonable demand. However, Santona's
Yeah, I'll be
responds
honest
with a
with you.
counter.
It is pretty shitty that Mr. Poke is actually doing that, to be honest. I'm like, you can agree to disagree at the end of the day, you know? It's a Hokkien word. Oh, I see.
Notice and said he hired H3's lawyer, a very, very accomplished and successful copyright lawyer in the United States. And Mr. Pokey does go back and say he's committed to a lawsuit. We're going to look at those tweets. And allegedly, according to my information that I received, he hired a Singaporean lawyer. So we'll get into that being a little bit of a mistake. So over here, you can see Mr. Pokey's posts that say, at every point of the road, you had the option to take the better path for yourself and everyone's around you. Now you believe hiring a lawyer to draft a counter notification, not a lawsuit, will give you legal grounds to steal my content. I am prepared to give you an actual lawsuit. Sleep well. Well, this is
it's not stealing if it's transformative. I'm just saying, you know, like I'm saying, right? We haven't gotten to the point or so of like, how transformative was this content, like this piece of media, you know? This gotcha community is very interesting, to put it lightly. It's just a bunch of dumbasses, like literally. He actually didn't hire H3's lawyer. He just took advice from the same lawyer.
It's very interesting because it seems to me reading this tweet that he just doesn't understand how the system works. And an actual lawsuit, well, what are you going to do? Like, are you trying to sue under Singaporean law? It sounds like, because there's a big problem with that. And we're going to go into that. The next comment here is the aim for peaceful resolution or de-escalation has clearly been tossed out, as seen from his recent streams or videos. Saint, please do not treat my one act of kindness to you as a sign of weakness or bowing down for your forgiveness, stating the peaceful resolution is me leaving the space. In my act of absolute good faith and kindness, feeling sorry for what happened to you, you decided to weaponize it and paint me as a gotcha terrorist. When the time comes, I will quote you on your own words, no mercy. And a little bit of the context of this, there was a raid on some Discord.
That's why I don't follow any gotcha CCs. I just play the game and form my own opinions. Yeah, but at the same time, you know, I'm the same thing too. I'll give you the good and the bad and everything, you know. What can they do to improve and everything like that, right? While these specific content creators, you know, they're not like that, you know, so.
Servers with some illicit material that was
I try to be as
now.
transparent to my
to
audiences as much as
the
possible.
Legal scenario, but some of that sentiment probably in there. So one thing I point out, de-escalation and peaceful resolutions are often the best result, not lawsuits, not going through the legal process. So anytime I see somebody throwing that out, I think they're really getting into an area that's over their heads. But let's get into the actual law and the way it breaks down with the YouTube system, because the YouTube system is very specific and it kind of covers the DMCA process. So when you have a YouTube copyright dispute, particularly one where you have a DMCA counter notification, proper venue, that's where the lawsuit is, where everything has to go down, is determined by US federal copyright law. And that doesn't matter where the parties are from. They can be from anywhere on the planet. Obviously, Mr. Pokey from Singapore, he could be from Mali, he could be from South Sudan, he could be from Argentina. It doesn't matter. You've got to apply US federal copyright law on a YouTube claim. Lawsuits must be brought in a federal court in the United States, a federal district court, regardless of where the parties reside. And when they are participating in the YouTube system, the notice and counter notice system, they're consenting to jurisdiction. So they're consenting to that US-based jurisdiction. Usually you're going to bring that case in the federal district where the defendant resides, or in the Northern District of California, because, well, that's where YouTube is, in the Northern District of California. So the foreign law here, really to examine this, US law is going to cover since it's a US company. So, Mr. Pokey, if he's talking about bringing a quote unquote real lawsuit and he's thinking about bringing a Singaporean lawsuit,
Uh-huh.
well, that really is not going to apply US law and it's not going to have an enforceable judgment because you can go and have some sort of lawsuit, and some countries allow this. Different countries are different, but in some countries, you might even be able to quote unquote bring a lawsuit against somebody. Maybe they don't show up or they don't even bother fighting it, and you get some sort of judgment in that country. So maybe you have a judgment in,
Oh, I
let's say,
see.
Romania, right? But that will not necessarily be enforced in other countries. Most countries, many countries, will not enforce those, particularly as to civil judgments, because that law was not correctly applied. And in this case, it's very, very clear that US law has to be applied. So in order to prevent the lawsuit, and prevent everything from being reposted, because eventually he's filed a counter notice, right? So he's filed the intention, right, to and the willingness to fight back through a lawsuit. You can repost that information after a 10 through 14 day DMCA window, right? And you've got to post proof that you have put your claim in US federal court and show that to YouTube. And if he's not able to do that, that's going to be a problem. Filing abroad, filing some Singaporean lawsuit is not going to meet the YouTube requirements. So then you get into, okay,
Here it is.
so
This
it's
is
got
what
to
I
be
want
in
to
the
know.
US. Is it
Yeah.
fair use? Now, this is a more complicated question.
Mhm.
And without me picking apart the video and doing a, hour long or 2 hour long review
Yeah,
of a
course.
video that's been copyright struck and opening myself up to a copyright strike, we'll talk about it broadly. Fair use usually involves commentary and criticism. It's not enough to say, hey, I simply don't like critique. I don't like you're talking about me. Therefore, you can't talk about me. That's not enough.
Yep.
Now, using someone's video, that does come in. Okay, you use someone's entire video. Is that transformative? Well, St. Totas and his position says he reacted for an hour and 22 minutes to a 20-minute video. Now, the judge could look at that differently, could say, well, you used all of it, or you didn't use clips, or whatever else. But there's a substantial amount that was added in terms of criticism and critique in response. The other thing they're going to look at is whether it's a market replacement for Mr. Pokey's original video. So let's look back to the Dirty Denims, Frogan and Casey Tron versus Ethan Klein. And did he make any statements saying, hey, I'm trying to steal viewers from Mr. Pokey, or this is intended as a replacement for Mr. Pokey? If he did, then that would be a problem.
Yeah.
But if he was just issuing critique and commentary and without actively trying to subvert that market, I think that the court might look at that a little bit more favorably on St. Tonta's side. So as long as he wasn't going about that in a way akin to Denim's, Casey Tron, or Frogan, I think it might be looked more like critique. But of course, this is a thing with fair use. Different judges can weigh the factors differently. So there could be a judge that says, hey, I don't like that you use the entire video, or I think you shouldn't have used this particular portion of the video. It might weigh that differently. But I think overall, looking at that, the fair use factors on their face tend to lean towards Saint. So let's go to the judgment.
Okay,
In my
I
judgment,
see.
St. Tontas has the current advantage as an American with a U.S. lawyer when fighting a Singaporean Mr. Pokey in court. He's got to go and do all this work. He's got to hire the American lawyer. He's got to deal with U.S. law. And right now, it's not even clear whether he has re-engaged a U.S. lawyer instead of a Singaporean lawyer. And the fair use factors do lean in favor of Saint just broadly,
Yeah, of
but
course.
judges can rule differently and they can rule the way they want. So you've got to really leave the door open for anything to happen if it actually slugs out.
So I don't remember if he said that on his streams, but he has said something similar towards his drama with other streamers, though. Better be careful. Don't be saying stuff like that, or else you'll be another Casey Tron and Denims kind of type of situation.
Of course, that's very costly. And therefore, my really final conclusion is both of these parties, Mr. Pokey and Saint, are really better sitting down, calming down, and coming to a non-legal resolution. But I will say to Mr. Pokey, expecting one party not to ever comment on another again, saying, hey, don't talk about me again. Keep my name out your mouth. That is not a reasonable expectation, or generally an enforceable expectation.
Yeah, that's pretty childish for Mr. Pokey, to be honest. You know, he's like untouchable or so, because you can't talk to him. You can't, like, you can't say his name or so. You don't speak ill will about him. You can't criticize him whatsoever, because he can, like, strike you down and everything. I think that's pretty stupid, in my personal opinion. That is pretty damn childish, in my personal. That's definitely abusing your platform 100%. I'm like, people have the right to criticize anything. When you publicly post something on a public platform about your certain opinion, people have the right in order to voice their opinion and critique about your opinion in general. You don't have this moral high ground that you are above everyone else, you know? I'm just saying, small PP behavior, basically. We need a drama bender tech to return to restore peace to the gacha realms. he's like the avatar, you know. Tecton is like the avatar, so, but then he disappeared, you know. 5,000 years, you know, has passed or so when the Fire Nation attacked.
On the internet, absent some other circumstance. This is not a situation where we're dealing with something like a death threat or a threat of physical harm, right? So this is a situation in which someone is giving critique. And if your position is, don't critique me ever again, generally that's not something that's going to be enforced or held up.
There's some takes that I respect or so from Tectone, but there's some other things that I'm just kind of like, nah, I just feel like you're just self-projecting on this just because you had a past trauma or so because of this, you know?
But I want to know what you guys think about this and the gacha war of Mr. Pokey.
This is such a dumb gacha war. That's all I gotta say, all right? This is a pretty dumb gacha war thing. Thank you for covering this. I heard Asmongold might do a vid on this situation soon. That is how wait, what? No way that Asmongold is gonna do a video on this. That is how out of hand all this drama gone. Oh my, I never did expect Saint Tota to be on Legal Mindset's video. Yeah, to be honest. I expected that you do your research before covering this. That I'm surprised that I'm surprised you're that informed in the gacha side of this matter. Very professional. Oh, March is gonna be a fun month. Some people were saying that he wouldn't react to it because it was too small. I knew they were wrong. Wow, I did not expect this to get covered here. God, I love being unemployed. Unk Nami Pontas versus the guy from Singapore. Gacha drama going mainstream. We used to pray for times like this. When tech got somehow involved on this drama, I already knew this got out of hand, got out of the gacha space. Jesus Christ. Oh my lord. If only Enfield didn't aura farm too hard to start this. Brother in Christ, it's crazy, dude. This all started because of a stupid gacha game, man. How unemployed you have to be like this, to be honest. It is crazy. Honestly, the gacha community is such a lost cause, to be honest. That's why the only reason why I'm, you know, I play gacha games, but I'll give you, you know, I'll give you the actual like facts and everything. I'll be like, this is how I feel about the game. This is how I feel about the story. This is how I feel about the mechanics. What can they do to improve? It's not just going to be always negative, negative, negative. I always give some critiques and then give some feedback or so. Be like, what could they do to like improve certain aspects, you know? Or some personal things that I personally don't like, but maybe someone else will like it. But this is just like my own personal judgment that I don't personally like it. Like it's the same thing with the NTE beta or so. I'm not a huge fan of the gearing system, right? I'm not a huge fan of it, but that's personally my opinion on the actual matter itself. You might like it, but I'm personally not a huge fan of it, you know? If they can find some way to tweak it and make it a little bit more better or so, that'd be nice, but, you know, it is what it is at the end of the day, you know? Not my gacha game, you know? But I still play it at the end of the day, so when it comes out fully. The gacha community is seriously cooked. It is seriously cooked. That's why I don't follow any gacha content creators. Like, I don't watch them anymore, so.
Let them fight.
Holy unemployment, dude. I swear to God, this is so absurd, but yeah. Anyways, I personally didn't want to watch this, but oh my God, this shit is so dumb and hilarious that I had to at least like watch like at least like 1 or 2 videos on this. Even Legal Mindset made a video on it, so I might as well watch it as well. So, holy God, dude, this is just ridiculous at this point. But yeah, the unemployed are eating good. Yeah. Massive day for my unemployment. Holy Toledo's, man. People are cooked in that fucking gacha game community, to be honest. What's crazy is that when they stream, majority of the streams about the drama between each other while also attacking other streamers, giving their takes on the drama while also having them categorized on the gacha games. You want to know something? When I play a gacha game or so, I play the game. Surprise Pikachu face. I play the actual game. And then I just give my own 2 opinions of what I think about the game in general, if it's a new gacha game, and then that's it, you know? I'll take you all on. What a ridiculous thing, honestly. Anyways, that's the end of the video. And yeah, this drama is so stupid.